What's up, guys? Pittsburgh White Shorts back again with another Rush Rundown. This time, we're going to go over Sword Art Online in the English competitive metagame. This will be a quick, concise overview of Sword Art Online's strengths, weaknesses, and notable cards that you need to know in order to effectively play into it, all in 10 minutes or less. While these aren't meant to be totally comprehensive, we've included a lot of information in all these slides about the set, so feel free to pause if you think we're moving too fast so you can get all that info. Now, with that out of the way, let's get right into it. So, Sal Basic. So Sal has a lot of viable archetypes. It has one of the biggest card pools in English. However, most of these builds are going to rely on winning board at pretty much every level using stacking power buffs from backups and some other effects that give them more power. The top ends are really varied. They can run a ton of toolbox stuff, so they can answer pretty much every situation. The other big thing about playing Sal, the reason why you still see Sal around a lot, is that it doesn't require reverses to function at almost any level. Some specific cards may be, like the Leaf Clock Kicker at level 3, but it's never their primary win condition. So I'm going to get right into the actual cards. So the first one we got here is Yuki herself. So this card was so good that it was basically a mistake. They never printed it again. It is an on-attack, pay 1, search 2. It filters their hand, thins their deck in a meaningful way, can swing in at 7,500 and doesn't lose to red bombs because she gains a level. And she keeps that level cross-turn. So make sure to watch out for this. This can create some really spooky deck states on your opponent's second deck. They can be really compressed. They can become almost unkillable. It's one of the scariest things you can experience when playing against Sal. There's not much you can do about it, but just try to stay on top of it and maybe lessen this card's impact if you can, to at least make it not live cross turn. But it stays pretty small, so you shouldn't have too much trouble with that. Moving on, we got the Leafa Amagi. So this is one of their main back rows, pretty much any deck. The big part here is whenever your opponent uses an act ability, whether that is something they tap for on their turn or a backup during their counter step, they get an additional 1,000 power. So in tandem with this Asana counter here, which is one of the only split backups in the game, meaning they can assign that 1,000 power to different lanes on their board, they can get really big even with costless characters. It can be really hard to reverse them. If they are using costless cards, you can bomb them, and if you have the chance to pull this card up and maybe kill it, or your opponent leaves in the front row, get rid of it immediately. It is really, really hard to deal with their boards going into the late game when they have this card in the field. Again, like most things with Sal, it's hard to interact with this card, but if you have a chance to get rid of it, please do so, and please be aware of it. When they're playing backups, they're always going to have an extra 1,000 power on their first one. It's only one per turn. Moving on, we got the Kirito Clean Cut. This is one of the best clean cuts printed in the game. It's 3,500 power on their turn. There's not much you can do about clean cuts, but you need to be aware of them. It lets your Sal player sort of aggressively try field very early. Keep an eye on it when you're going into like your zero gain turns. Be aware of it, like the Sal player is always going to snipe for clean cuts. It has value later in the game, so they're always going to look for these like real cheeky plays to save their boards, and some things might not be big enough. Just always be aware of it, and it's in every Sal deck. Other thing, this Asana back row, one of the most powerful support cards ever. It's 2k in front of this card, no matter what level those characters are. And when your opponent gets a reverse with those characters, they can clock kick your card. They can remove it from the game. This card also like selectively cantrips as a climax combo. So it's really big in all the standby variants or all the quote-unquote Gara, Sal, more toolboxy builds that run like Yuki and some other climaxes. It shows up in a lot. It's a really crazy support. Again, like most things with Sal, not much you can do about it. However, please be aware of it. Understand the implications of your cards going to memory if you do have to crash against these characters, because you're never getting those cards back, or maybe you can get some compression off of it. The attack and waves combo is dated, only gives them 5 attacks, but it's all at the end of the attack, so if you can't memory shoot the cards or prevent them from moving their Asana around, it's going to be hard to reverse it. I know this card's a wall of text, but when you get a chance, read through it a little bit, understand how the card works. It's a really, really powerful support card. Another one, so this one isn't showing up as much anymore. So this is Machine of Ice Xenon. So this is anti-backup. So it's anti-event and anti-backup. So they can't play anything. As Seizure and some other heavy like event counters, like money counters and stuff like that, if they become more popular, this card will be teched in to people who are still running Sal. It's just a really important tech card to keep in mind. Being able to turn off backups is pretty crazy. This shows up in standby more often because they have more slots to put in 2-1s, but just an important card to keep in mind. Okay, so this one, Yui, Stock Swap. So this is Stock Swap on a stick. They can search this card. This card also has Damage Scry, so it keeps your opponent alive, and it swings in for a ton of power. Damage Scry is really not interactive. There's not much you can do about it. The big thing is, like, if you have an opportunity going into your opponent's level 3, because they can't early play this card with the effect, they can only stand by it. Pay out your stock if you can to sort of lessen the impact of that stock swap, if possible. Otherwise, like I've been saying, most cards with Sal, not much you can do about when they drop it on you. Just sort of try to lessen the blow if possible, and it's an important thing for you to be aware of if your deck runs a stock charge strategy. Most Sal events tech this, even decks that you wouldn't think were in blue, because most of them are running the clean cutter, the runner. So most decks can splash this card, even if you don't think they can by the colors that you see on the board. Always be aware of it, always look for it. Last one here, money counter. So opposition by the shield, one of the few money counters that are available in English. So when we say money counter, we mean anti-damage counter. So it chooses a character in battle, and that character can't deal damage to a player. So this turns off the damage from its actual swing and any on-reverse burn damage that originates from that card. Really important when you're running on-reverse finisher, stuff like that, can turn stuff off. Again, it is an event, and it does target, so hexproof and any anti-event effects do turn this card off. Really important to keep money counters in mind. There's not many of them in English, and this is a big reason a lot of people still play Sal. It lets Sal effectively two-turn its opponent so they can go for more elongated game strategies to win the game. All right, so counters. We went over the big ones. The big thing to remember, we already went over Opposition by the Shield. There's Leafa counter and Dicey Gilbert. The Dicey Gilbert's anti-change, it sends to bottom deck, and then Leafa counter can scry a card to keep you in the game costless. So a lot of those cards show up in a lot of decks, so just keep those in mind. Anti-change counter is always important to remember. Bomb and Clear, they got a lot of options. The most popular one, definitely Adventure with Everyone Seen On, because it's also a climax swap. But the today's MVP Asana, which also filters, and as well as the Lizbeth, are showing up in more and more builds since they've come out. So just keep those options in mind. They show up a lot. Common builds. So the most common one for sure, Bar Book, Yuki Seen On, burns for 4 at the end game. We've already went over Yuki. Just a really efficient deck, completely non-interactive, definitely not as popular. The other one, falling out of favor now, but still, it's Sal. People are going to play it. Standby Switch, that's a whole archetype. We'll have the deck list linked in the description at the end of the video if you want to check that out. That deck is a little bit more intricate and focuses around winning board and can high roll really crazily. So, final review. They do have a Ricky. It's on reverse, but it's not really played. It's an Asana, so you don't really have to worry about it. You can level lock it. They have access to every form of anti-change, but they mostly run clears and bombs because the Gilbert is so expensive. So watch more out for those than the anti-change backup. Most popular build, definitely Yuki Seen On still. The set is very strong, like I've said, at being non-interactive and efficient while still holding board on its opponent's turn, which is not something that many non-interactive decks can still say. But the big thing that it's weak at is milling. It can be in really bad deck states sometimes because of the Amagi, and brainstorms are always tapped too. So it can't get through bad deck states really bad. You might be able to capitalize that to win the game, and because it's really hard for them to correct really bad deck states if they get into those, so keep an eye out for that. Set popularity is still moderately high. You still have a very high chance of running into the set. People love Sal, it's been around for a long time, and a lot of people still have cards, and the set's still strong, so people are still going to run it. All right, that's basically Sword Art Online. If you liked the video, drop a like or a comment. Let us know how we did. That really helps us out. We're going to be releasing these rush rundowns on Mondays and Wednesdays with our usual deck techs on Fridays still, along with all these links that you see on the screen that we drop at the end of all our videos. We're going to have decks from Encore decks down in the description, so you guys can check those out if you want a better idea of what you would see at a Shop Challenger or Regional. With that, I think we're done. Pittsburgh White Schwartz signing off, and we'll see you all in the next one.